Day one of the NBA draft has come and gone. It was a surprising and eventful 30 picks. Who do we see as the winners and losers? What are some of our immediate reactions? And what do we anticipate in day two coming up on Locked On NBA Big Board? What's up? My name is Richard Stayman. You might know me better as Mavs Draft. I'm joined by James Barlowe. James and I have been working together a lot this draft process, particularly over the last few months. He's been grinding. I've been grinding. We're really excited now that day one has passed. I really appreciate everybody who continues to make Locked On NBA Big Board the first listen of your day. It means a lot to both of us. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, James, right off the cup. It is right now. It is 11:45 Eastern time. The draft maybe ended 20 minutes ago. Give me some just raw thoughts. Like, let's just start staying in the lottery. What was the most surprising thing? What were your big picture takeaways about the first 14 picks?
So, Ron going number 5. I understand. I like Ron. I don't like the fit because
They have no shooting,
and he needs to work on his shooting. I don't necessarily think that's the best spot for him. That's one. Clinging to Portland basically means that DeAndre Ayton's time is probably coming to an end soon, or one of the Robert Williams is gone. That's fine. I get that too. That doesn't surprise me because just the way that they went. Dillingham at 8. I mentioned yesterday to you guys that Minnesota really, really liked Dillingham. I was right about that. Shout out to me and my connect. Zach Edey at number 9. I think that happened obviously because Clingan was gone. So I guess it makes sense. And you know what? I'm not mad at that. And really falling out of the lottery was Dalton Connect. That was a stretch. And Bub Carrington entering the lottery was a surprise, but I'm not that surprised, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the Dalton Connect, I mean, that far and away is the storyline. I agree with the Ron Holland stuff. It's really funny, too, because for the last, I would say, month, we've seen, is Ron Holland even a lottery pick? Could he be there when the Lakers pick? He was the 5th pick. He was the first. All that is why I don't think I cared about mock drafts this year for the first time probably ever, where I said, you know what, like wherever they get picked this year, such a random subjective year, like every year is, but especially this year, I feel like those two were massive. Like Rob Dillingham was the guy we were talking about, same thing. Could he make it to the Lakers kind of thing? And then also, like, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was Minnesota trying to get him to fall, like you've indicated. And then also just Ron Holland. Like all you need is one. That is the prime example. Like I have heard some of the players that Ron Holland worked out in against other teams. I can't say, but he was far and away. He was the only draftable prospect in those workouts. Like teams were low on him. That was true. But what was smoke was the one team that really liked him at the top didn't reveal it. So I like the Holland pick. Let's talk about Connect. I mean, he fell. Why do you think he fell?
I don't know. And you know what? I guess it doesn't make sense. Well, I guess you can say he's 23, right? And maybe people think he's a volume scorer at the next level. I wouldn't have minded him in Sacramento at 13 because you do need help on the wing, but at the same time, people feel like Connect may not be able to defend at that level. But yeah, him falling that far, like in all honesty, like on my last mock again, my mock that I have into my Twitter is what I would do, not what I thought what would happen. But like I had him going to Detroit because of the team doesn't need to get that much younger and they need shooting, and he filled a need. Was it a stretch at Detroit? Obviously, but nobody had a clue what they were going to do. Nobody had a clue what Trajan Langdon was going to do. Him falling to 17, I would have taken him at 16 to Philadelphia, to be honest with you. But yeah, him at 17 was crazy to me. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean that's a steal. Like let's just talk about the Lakers fit. You put him next to LeBron James, who historically has thrived on the guys like Dalton Connect. Like that's ridiculous. Like maybe he'll leave and join Bronny. I don't think that's going to happen. But just under the assumption he stays with LA and everything, like that is such a good pick. And I'm a Magic fan, so of course the Lakers snipe the Magic target. That would be like that was the best fit that the Magic could have had in one pick away. So that's unfortunate. They probably could have traded up. I'm okay with Tristan da Silva, but with Connect, I think the reason he fell normally like old player, short wingspan, but he didn't have short arms. Like he measured 6'5" with 6'9" wingspan. He's old, sure, and yeah, he's not going to be the SEC player of the year caliber guy again, where he's scoring 20 a game, but like that just translates so easily. And in this draft, I feel like I was surprised by this, and I don't know if you picked up on this too, but I was shocked at the amount of upside swings in this class that we're taking. Like Bub Carrington at 14, I think was one. Even though I had Carrington at 12, I didn't think that would happen with NBA teams. Like there were so many different guys. Salon at 6 was a massive swing. There were some of those where I just feel like I thought the floor guys would get top priority, like Johnny Furphy. I thought he would get picked by now. Baylor Shireman, I thought would go way higher than 30. That was shocking. I don't know if you picked up on that too.
Well, I mentioned in previous podcasts I wasn't as high on Furphy towards the end of this
And same
draft
here.
process.
Same here.
So like,
go on.
and I had mentioned with Leif, like green room snubs or invites, who would be a late green room guy? I thought he would be one. Did I think he'd be a second round pick? No, but at the same time, I mean, it doesn't surprise me as much. But Bub Carrington, I guess when Washington picked up that second pick, I had a feeling. I don't want to sound like LeBron when he's lying on the in the interviews and stuff, but like I wanted to tweet it. But it's like, Bub Carrington and Washington makes sense here, right? I should have tweeted because then I'd have really looked smart. But I like that pick. And you had been reading that he was trending up. Like I said, me and Leif had talked about it, that he was somebody that we see going ahead of schedule. But actually, I got one for you that really was surprising, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I know we can't question him because he's supposed to be a genius. I'm not saying it like condescendingly, but like Toppage to Oklahoma City is just interesting to me because, okay, I get the red shirt year, there's no rush, but they have a bunch of guards, and he is a guard that needs the ball in his hands. So like that one, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. And then on top of what they did at 26. So like I'm confused at what Oklahoma City's doing. Again, I know we're not supposed to question Sam Preston God, but I have questions.
I liked their draft because for me, I think if you're a team like Oklahoma City, who was the number 1 seed, who did not really need this pick, right?
Right.
Like it's hard to be the number 1 seed and get a lottery pick. That is a very rare combination. I think for them, all they have to do is keep that asset level at a straight line. Like I've always compared draft picks to a new car. They're awesome when you don't know who the name is. The second you get a name, you're kind of like, the value decreases pretty easily. Mm-hmm. If you can get Toppage, who the stock at this point is pretty level given the injury, if he can even just maintain that same value that number 12 would have had in a trade a year ago or even 4 months ago at the trade deadline, I think that's a win. And on top of that, Oklahoma City develops their guys really well. So I think ultimately it's mostly for a trade piece. Now, I did like the Dylan Jones pick. I'm a Dylan Jones fan. I've warmed up to him so much just because of how unique he is. And I think Oklahoma City is the right team to maximize him. You'll hear like what Jalen Williams, the big man, does. They're not the same player, but the way that he's a very unconventional big, a very below the rim big in every way that doesn't shoot a ton, but he's still a serviceable big that played in the playoffs. Dylan Jones could be that kind of same way, I think, for a wing, as a do-it-all wing that finds a role any given night.
You see, but I think this is what they try to do with my man Dante Burton at Iowa State, and it didn't work out. Like, my thing with Dylan Jones, and Billis mentioned it on the show, he was such a high usage guy. What does it look like in a lower usage role, especially when he can't shoot? I would have personally took Tyler Smith, because again, size, shooting, and if you want to go big and he figures it out defensively, you could go 6'11", 7 foot at some point. Maybe not a starter, right? But that's fine. I don't understand Dylan Jones in Oklahoma City in a lower usage role. Like he would be somebody like if Utah would have selected him at 29, like, all right, cool, I get that. I just don't know if he can shoot. Again, he handles the ball well. He has the size and strength, and he's a unique player. But I don't think I would have taken him in the first. And they had a million picks, so them giving up a million picks to get him doesn't matter. But I personally wouldn't have taken him 26. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, there were probably different options. I really do like how Dylan Jones would be able to impact a winning team. I think we can talk about some of these biggest steals and biggest reaches, and also we'll get to our winners and losers. Like we got carried away with the reactions. We had so many thoughts. Again, we're so raw. This is 30 minutes after the draft has ended at this point. But first, let me talk about Game Time real fast. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. I've used it before. It makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's one word, LOCKEDONNBA, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, second segment here. Let's do the winners and losers. That is the bottom. It's at the bottom right now. We didn't even get to it again because the reactions, we had so many thoughts, and we're going to get to more and more of those. Who was the biggest? Let's start on the negative end. Let's end with a positive. Who do you think was the biggest loser of tonight's draft? Like, let's start with the team perspective, and then we'll do player.
All right, from the team perspective, I'm going to say, and I like the young man. Hey, man, look, and I told you before, don't be surprised at how high A.J. Johnson is selected. When I said that, I didn't think he was going to go 23rd, and I definitely did not think he was going to go to Milwaukee. Like, Milwaukee has a prime Giannis. You got, I guess you could say, back prime Damian Lillard. Middleton is older, so I get needing a young guy, but I would have probably gone with somebody a little bit more seasoned. As much like A.J. Johnson, he's going to be in the G League the entire year, which he should be. That's no disrespect, but yeah, I that was a stretch, and it's going to take some time for him to develop. And if I'm Giannis, I'm trying to figure out what's going on right now in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I would have taken every single player that was picked after him at that spot. Baylor Shireman, I thought was, and that, like, I mean, a lot of good players were picked after him, like Baylor Shireman at 30, like just foreshadowing. We'll be talking about him in a minute, but like that was the pick Milwaukee needed. Like you get a guy who passes, rebounds. He was the best rebounder in the conference as a wing. He's a great shooter, like outstanding feel for the game. That is exactly what they need. If they wanted to go with an upside play for the long term, why not Pacome Dadier? Like I feel like there were so many different guys that could have gone that do. Here's my thing with AJ Johnson. We've talked about this for the last month. I'm just not in on him. He is like, yeah, he's young. He's very athletic. The problem is though, he's built like a tall point guard at 6'4", 6'8" wingspan. It's like fine. It's not like he's not 6'5" with a 6'10" wingspan. The difference of those two is massive. And also he's athletic. It's nice, but the shot isn't there. He doesn't know how to play at the moment. Like if it's not dunking, he's not going to be scoring very much. Like in the combine the second day, he had a nasty poster dunk on Nick Clifford. That was really nice. It was a great flash in the half court. His only basket that day was a leak out dunk. And I feel like he's a lot of flair with not much substance. Maybe we look like idiots and the Bucks are much smarter and they really prevail because they have done this in the past. Now it's gone both ways. They've taken Thon Maker at 10 and they've taken Giannis in the mid-teens. Obviously, you know how both of those went. But I just feel like giving someone like him a guaranteed contract when you're already tight on money for the next few years, that is a massive risk. I feel like he could have been there at their pick in the second round.
You could have put a pick and got him in the second round. I would have gone personally with Nikola Jurisic here. Somebody that's still young with some upside who could probably play right now. Yeah, I would have done that because again, like if I'm Giannis, I'm like, okay, I'm 28. How can this dude help me win right now? If I'm Dame Lillard, I'm 32, 33. How can this young dude? He can't help me win right now. And they have to feel like, if Giannis doesn't get hurt, we're right there. If Dame's Achilles isn't sore, we beat the Pacers. Like they have to feel like they're right there. And you address some of these concerns in free agencies, but you're strapped. You're going to lose probably Malik Beasley to money or to make more money. They say Brook Lopez is on the way out, so like, why not get somebody who is young who can contribute right now? So I don't get that. Who else was one of your biggest losers, player wise or team wise?
Yeah, that was the only team one I felt was like atrocious. I think player wise, man, somebody who maybe ended up like in a bad spot. It's tough. I actually think most of the draft went really well. I don't think any one player ended up maybe like a little bit of risk in Kel'el Ware, but I actually think I'm just going to hand it over to the Heat. They know what they're doing. Maybe some of the intel that I'd heard all throughout the year. Maybe I held too much of it as a crutch. I'm down to be wrong on that. I would say that was the only pick I didn't like. I mean, I felt everybody else fell into place almost exactly how it was. Nobody gave up enough to make a bad pick.
I got with somebody that's a loser, and I've been tweeting about this. Zion Williams, man. They drafted, again, I like Yves Neeson. I don't like him in New Orleans. So if the Pelicans need somebody we need space for Zion, right? Especially because he's going to handle the ball a lot, especially at the top of the key. He's extremely raw. Now, again, I know you weren't particularly high on Deron Holmes. I love Deron. Oh, okay, then that was Leif. My fault. I would have went with Deron Holmes here, just because we have a playmaking power forward refrigerator that is nimble. He needs space, and Misi is he's a couple years away to me. And it's like even with Valanciunas, right? Valanciunas is a space eating, back to the basket, try to cave your chest in, but he will shoot threes, right? Yep. And it's like Misi's just not going to do that. So I think that I didn't like that particular pick. Not the player. I don't like the fit and the pick. I think Deron Holmes was right there in front of you, and you could have. Yeah. So, but that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, and I like Yves Misi I like him for the Pelicans. My concern is, like, in the very, very long run, my concern is, like you said, you can't play him and Zion together. Then you still have to find a starting center because, like you said, with Valanciunas, he was an inside-out big, and that's what you need for Zion. You can't have a non-floor spacer next to him because in this NBA, there's just no matter how good you are, even if you had Shaq and Zion, whatever, like it's still going to be tough to make it work as two non-shooting players. Yeah. Like it's just obviously
Zion,
an exaggeration.
He's amazing, but if he just had that much more space, you're talking about a 28, 29 point per game guy, even with the free throw shooting being tricky. So, but those two were my two, like, well, I guess you could say Dylan Jones. Those are my head scratchers. Everyone else kind of went around the range that I thought they would go, minus Connect. But yeah, those were the main ones that I was like, I don't know about that one, dog.
Yeah, I also thought maybe Tyler Kolek, but we can talk about him later on because they need a point guard. But what about the winners? Let's end on a positive note with this. Who do you think were some of the biggest winners? Let's start in terms of teams for the night.
Washington Wizards absolutely killed
it. My man. That is
absolutely killed it.
No brainer. Get all on Twitter, and I get it because like I'm a Magic fan. I'm used to this every time the Magic for the last prior to this year for the last 13 years, really 10. I would always see what are the Magic doing? What are the Magic doing? And sometimes it was warranted, like when they traded for Brandon Jennings to give up Tobias Harris, fine. But once you get that reputation, it starts being no matter what you do, everybody will find a way to undercut you. I saw national writers tweeting, really, the Wizards, they did this, and they got 3 picks in a bad draft. And I'm like, you can't just blanket slate that. You have 3 picks that were very calculated, and they actually all fit each other. And
all fit perfectly.
Dude, it's perfect. You made a pick and roll masterpiece out of these 3 players. Alex Sarr is the roll man, Bub Carrington as the ball handler, and Keyshawn George as the skip option in the corner. And
he can handle the ball some too.
Yeah. He's a smart passer.
It's like criticism. Yeah, it's like so no, you didn't get a franchise player, right? But guess what? You'll be bad enough next year or whatever. You'll be young enough. How about that? Let's say that you'll be young enough next year to get yourself to position yourself for another very good young piece. This is a piece draft, right? For you to get 3 quality pieces, I like it. I really like it. My second team, and I had been trying to mock them a power forward since the beginning of the lottery selection. Portland. I like what Portland did. So they started off, they traded for Avdia. Avdia has come along. Powerful. I think Avdia is he's a very, very good defender. The jump shot finally came along last year, right? So he shot the ball extremely well. He rebounds. Like, I really like him in Portland. And then you get Klingon. People were talking about Klingon number 1. That's way too rich for my blood. But Klingon at 7. And again, if you sit here and say, we don't, DeAndre Ayton, we may be moving on. I would personally move on from DeAndre Ayton. I think you came out very well in this particular draft. You get Klingon.
Go ahead.
And you get Denny Avdia, who would be a top 5 pick in this draft if he were a rookie. So I love him.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And also, like, if you wanted to find the perfect player in this draft that'll help revive Scoot Henderson's stock, Donovan Klingon. But you just gave him an outstanding role, man. A much better fit for him on both ends than DeAndre Ayton. I think you can keep both. I don't know if you can play both together is the issue. Like, I think depending on how many minutes you're trying to run each of them, it can work for a year, but I think the clock is very much ticking. I would agree with those two. I mean, Washington was my clear cut. Like, I don't think there was really anyone else. I think the Spurs, I kind of like what they did to get the Wolves picks in the future, but like, I don't know, trading out was kind of weird. I do like that being said, I like the Wolves did to get Dillingham. Like, you got a top 10 player, borderline top 5. I mean, he was the first player on my second tier. Look, if you can do that as a playoff team and say, you know what, we'll sacrifice the future. Who even knows what happens in 2030? This pick swap, we don't know. Both teams could be good and it may not matter. And same with 2031. There's no way to know at this point, 7 years out for the 2031 pick. Anthony Edwards may be there. He may not, just because of the nature of the NBA. I don't know. I don't hate it. I think that was the other one I really like. And then also, I just love Jalen Tyson in Cleveland. I think that's such a fantastic fit. Hard worker, upside and floor.
Listen to me. You're not talking to nobody that's not a Jalen Tyson fan. I loved him in Sacramento, right? At 13. Again, everybody, listen, I 100% get the appeal of Devin Carter. Even though he's a little on the short side, he's got the wingspan, he defends, plays hard. I just am concerned about 1 year of good shooting that he put out on tape, because that is the difference between being whatever and people going for that Derek White mold, right? Like, Derek White was a shooter, and even then, the Derek White that we see, like, that is like 4 or 5 years into the NBA. Devin Carter, if he can't shoot, if that shooting is fake, then you just drafted a taller version of Davion Mitchell. You just drafted another small guard. But I get it, and it's a risk that you take. If you feel like he can compete, can help you win right away, I'm cool with it. But Jalen Tyson at 20, I mean, you could argue that Toronto could have made that pick too. But like, him at 20 is perfect, because now you have insurance just in case you decide to move on from one of those guards. And he's a big wing, he's a playmaking wing. I think I'm a fan. We're both high on Jalen Tyson. Yeah,
I like him. Let's talk about the day 2 preview, and we'll do biggest steal and biggest reach of night 1. We'll be right back. All right, last segment. My name is Richard Stayman. Again, I'm joined with James Barlowe. Let's do this real fast. What was the biggest steal of the draft, and what was the biggest reach of the draft? I think we handled the biggest reach. That was AJ Young. We need to cover that. Who was the biggest steal? And I think this one's such an easy one. This will be the quickest discussion. Let's just eliminate Dalton Connect. Outside of Dalton Connect, who was the biggest steal tonight?
I mean, I feel like you're getting Dillingham with no picks.
Yeah.
And you traded in to get him. I think that's the perfect.
He didn't give up 27.
And he, I know that I don't know if you saw it, but I had tweeted last week when the rumors were of him sliding, and they were like, "Oh man, he's got a 6'3" wingspan." And I flat out told you I don't care about my point guard's wingspan. I'm asking him to defend one spot. And then everyone's like, oh, you need him to be tall and deflections. I'm like, that's why I have bigs behind him. I need him to be competitive. So for him to land in Minnesota with a guy who has a similar frame as him, like that's the perfect situation as far as like an internship. Like, okay, this is how you defend. This is the older guy, Mike Conley. This is how you defend in space. This is how you take advantage of your speed. This is how you funnel your man into the big guys. Like I feel like Minnesota came out very, very strong. And then they also got Terrence Shannon Jr. They got more like wing athleticism scoring. So I really like what Minnesota did. And I feel like they stole Dillingham because they had a late first round pick and ended up getting a lottery talent and a guy that can eventually probably average 20 for them.
Yeah, I mean, I echo all of that. Well, let's talk about day 2 real fast. So some of the names I had, let's see how many first round grades. I had Tyler Kolek is still there. Jalen Bridges, KJ Simpson were at 3. So the 3 first round grades are there. I feel pretty confident about that. I ended up having 26. So 26 or what is that? 23 of 30 first round picks grades when went there. I mean, I don't even want to say where I had AJ Johnson, just out of respect, but I was low on him. Who are some of your top players that are left? And yeah, let's just start with that.
Tyler Smith should be drafted within the first 3 picks, in all honesty. I think you can use him in Utah. I think you definitely can use him in Milwaukee because, again, if you're saying Brook Lopez is out, you still need some front court depth. I like Tyler Kolek. I wasn't high on Tyler Kolek as a first round pick. I never understood that. That was just my personal preference. I think Bobby Clinton is available. Ryan Dunn went a lot earlier than I expected. Again, I understand. I get the intrigue as far as the defense, but shout out to Kevin Durant. You get Andre Roberson again. But I feel like AJ Mitchell should be I think he should go off the board fairly quick. He's the person that I had with a first round grade that I was pretty sure was going to go in the first round, and Jurisic, excuse me. Those two I thought were going to be first round picks or day 1 picks, and they weren't. So those are probably the guys, if I were a second round, if I was drafting early, I would definitely target them or even trade up to get them because I think they had first round grades for me.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a few guys that ultimately get those 3 I named, Kolek, Furphy, and KJ. I think they'll hear their name pretty early. Jurisic is a great shout out. I think he had a great combine. I was a little bit shocked he didn't go earlier, but I think it just kind of was the way the board fell. It wasn't anything he did. McCullough's somebody I'm interested to see where his stock goes because he's been hurt for so long. And yeah, we just don't know what the pre-draft process was really like for him. Also, Kyle Filipowski. I mean, he's somebody both of us are notoriously low on. I think they're interesting to see where they go. Cam Christie, I think, is the big wild card. He could be 31. He might be 45. Like, he has such a wide range. I think he has the single widest range of anybody else, like, very realistically in play for the first pick of the second round.
Looking at the second round draft picks, Milwaukee's at 33. AJ Johnson was 150% going to be there at 33. Like, yeah, I don't get that. He was there, 100% there, and they reached up. Yeah. What else did I have on my list? Jalen Wells. Surprising. I think he should hear his name early. He seems like a guy that worked out in San Antonio at 35.
Yeah, I like him and Jalen Bridges. I also think, Furphy, like, he wasn't one of my first round grade guys, and we talked about him slightly at the beginning, but I'm interested to see where he goes. And then also, Oso Ighodaro could go, depending on what team thinks they really have a chance at him. One, there's going to be a ton of trades. The second round is where all the trades happen in the draft. Like, the average draft, I don't remember how many it is, but it's double-digit trades, or really close to it. A heavy majority come from the second round. I think teams like Portland, who already have made their pick, maybe Portland will keep it, but like,
they have 2 more.
They don't need a third pick. New York doesn't need another pick. Memphis,
no, they can't afford another pick.
Yeah, Portland has 2 top 10 picks tomorrow. Do they need it? Probably not. Philadelphia might keep theirs though because they have such a blank slate on their roster. I really don't know where Furphy comes off the board though. Toronto, I think it's too redundant. Maybe Utah. Because, I mean, like Cody Williams is good, Collier's good, but neither of those guys are shooters at the moment. Maybe they get their shooter, and then Milwaukee, look, who knows at this point? So I'm very interested to see what happens. Like, who do you think is going to be the surprise faller based on how everything fell? This is the kind of cool advantage, I think, of having this day two is you have a day to sleep on and then go, okay, this is what happened. You process it. And then you kind of pick up on trends, right? Where you go, well, this just happened. It's kind of like it's not the same thing, but like in baseball where you get a series where you're like, well, there are a lot of home runs hitting game one. You know, what's going to happen game 2 and 3 of the series, right? So what do you think will be some of the trends that we see continue into the second day of the draft?
I think Kevin McCullough falls a lot.
The injury?
I think the injuries and the inconsistent shooting, I think he falls a lot. I don't know where he's going to go. I don't feel like he maybe a top 5 guy coming off early, but I know some people had first round grade on him. The Knicks, I don't see them picking anybody because again, they're cash strapped. So maybe somebody trades up. I think Filipowski, Furphy, Jurisic, AJ Mitchell, KJ Simpson, and Jalen Wells. Those 6 should, and Kolek. 7, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Those 7 should go in the top 10. So I'm trying to figure out like where does
Maybe Cam Christie, the Dembona.
Yeah, but where does an older guy with injuries like Kevin McCullough fall in that situation?
Yeah, that's my thing too. I think he's going to return good value if he's healthy. Like he's one of these guys where if the health doesn't check out, we see it too often. Elijah Hughes is one of my favorite prospects I scouted that never panned out because he played like right away. He had an injury. I don't remember what it was in 2020 that he got hurt in the pre-draft process and he just never recovered. He never got to be the best version of himself. He was a good prospect, but when you play behind the curve like that, like where you already come in and you're already at a disadvantage compared to your peers who are in there for the summer. I mean, it's still very early summer, all things considered. You have 3 months until training camp. Look, if you're not in that window, you automatically lose development. And that's tough. That's where McCullough's at, where it's like he has to get healthy, but he also can't rush it back because you could double down on the negativity. That's the hard part. So I don't know. I think there's some interesting names for me. My tier stops at like 53. I think is 54 is the last draftable player I have on my board. I think you're going to see some interesting names though. Like I think the trend I'm following is the upside play. So Cam Christie, I think if I had to bet, he's going to be the first pick of the second round, even though, or maybe the second pick, because I don't think Toronto is going to do that twice. But Utah could. I think that fits a lot. I think he's like, if you look at the upside plays in this draft, Justin Edwards will probably go early. Jonathan Mogbo, I think, is one of the older upside guys. What do you think of that?
You know what I'm thinking though? So the first, just to kind of flip what you're asking, the first like 8 or 9 guys, then you're gonna see guys say, "Yo, don't draft me," because then I'm gonna pick where I want to go. Because you think of a guy like a Dembona, right? We don't think he'll be a top 10 for second round pick. Well, then at what point do you say, all right, I'm looking at these rosters and I feel like I can crack a rotation. And then he may say something like, okay, we know the Lakers are going to take Bronny at 55, right? That's pretty much, he was the only lock of the night, which is crazy. He may say, yo, teams don't draft me. I want the Lakers because they need bigs. And I feel like I can crack that rotation. I can be a pick and roll lob threat. So like that's something that's going to be interesting to me too. And then like Melvin Aginsa, what happens to him? I think he's a good draft and stash guy if you don't feel like he's ready. So yeah, that is what I'm most paying attention to, because there's going to be some guys that you're like, man, I had him higher and he didn't go undrafted, and 2 minutes later he signs a 2-way deal with a playoff team, and his agent is like, don't worry about it. You didn't get your name called. That's cool. But yeah, I just want to know, like, well, why not Tyler Smith right now, especially with those top, like he has to go off the top 10. So, but we'll see.
Yeah. So we'll end on this. I think it's important to remember, like James just said, draft order doesn't mean like teams will try and draft some players that they don't end up being able to draft. Like Trace Jackson Davis had people contacting him last year before he fell to 57 or 58, whatever it was. I think it was 57. But like they told him, the Excel team and Trace Jackson Davis's camp, they told those teams, hey, we have our team picked out. They're either going to draft us at the Warriors or we are going to choose our route from there. And that is a very commonplace. So when guys start sliding, don't necessarily jump into, oh, everybody thinks he's bad. I would honestly say the first reaction after the 40th pick is when this starts is, or everybody's different. I would say really the 40th pick, though, for a lot of them is, did somebody ask them to go to a certain spot? And usually what will happen, the best way to know is, one, they'll say it, or two, they immediately sign after the draft ends. Because every single time the draft ends, if you have Woj or Shams notifications, you're going to, your phone blows up. And that's why, because all of that has been told an hour before they say, hey, we're going to sign with this team. Go ahead and tweet it as soon as the draft's over. That's literally how it goes. So just remember that. Keep that in mind. It's going to be a fantastic day, too. Leif and James will be reviewing it tomorrow. But this is, again, my name is Richard Stayman. I'm with James. We'll be back tomorrow. Appreciate everybody and can't wait for day 2.